Okay, so it looks like there's maybe a 10 or 20-second delay on YouTube. Already weird. Okay, so it looks like there's maybe 10, 20 second.
Yeah, I'm gonna check the YouTube. Can you say something? I'm gonna check how it is on YouTube.
Okay, so it looks like there's maybe a 10 or 20 second delay.
Can you say something? I'm gonna check how it is on YouTube. Yeah, I'm gonna check the YouTube. So
Oh, it looks like I can't live stream to both
I'm gonna
YouTube
check the
and
YouTube.
Facebook at the same time.
I would say your voice is a bit low, like it's not the most clear. You could like see it on YouTube, maybe. I don't know. I would say your voice is a bit low, like it's not the most clear. You could like see it on YouTube. I don't know. I would say your voice is a bit low, like it's not the most clear. You could like see it on YouTube.
All right. I already don't really like this Zoom and YouTube thing at the same time. I suspect I you ask Reed, I've been kind of negative about it for a while, but I wanted to give it a shot. I don't know.
Yeah, testing run. And I hear something in the background, like a whistle. No idea.
Yeah, I don't know what it is either because you were muted and I muted myself, but I still kept hearing this noise.
Yeah.
Hello, Christine. Welcome. The only positive to this is I'm thinking about like the amount of different the amount of different pop-ups and screens that I would need to manage with this. But the only positive in this is I could technically share the browser, like if I'm going through Rasuta, that would make things a bit easier. But I don't know how this is going to work. We'll see.
Maybe the share screen. Oh, and yeah, the voice you are a bit low, but I can hear you well, so it's not a problem.
Diana, welcome.
Hello, Venerable.
Hello, Reed. I'm trying to see how this is working. I don't know how well it's working. We'll see.
The video is good. The audio is fairly low.
Which is interesting because I don't know why. I have my yet like everything. Oh wait, I know exactly why. I didn't set it in Zoom. That's the problem.
Oh,
How about now?
oh, there you go, Bante.
Yeah, that now it's my Yeti.
That's the ticket.
Yes. Now the only other problem is when I talk and if other people are talking, you can you can hear. Okay.
Right. So I'll mute myself.
Yeah. All right. All right. So we're past 8. Let's see. Who do we have here on the YouTube? I don't know how this like 20-second delay between Zoom and YouTube is going to go. I don't know how that'll affect things. But let's give it a couple minutes and see if we get any more stragglers in, then we'll get started. Hello, Jen, Diana, welcome. So, all right. So one thing that we can do here is everybody on Zoom, make sure that you're muted and type in the chat. I'm not going to be able to pay attention to like raising your hand and things like that because there's just way too many things going on. But I can pay attention to a couple different chats. I think that's going to be a bit better. So I have both the Zoom and the YouTube chat up. Welcome, Audrey. Welcome, Bella and Gautam. I think Bella and Gautam gave up on Zoom and are now on YouTube. Now, the other interesting thing is, even though I have it on speaker view, like, is there a way for the recording to only be me instead of randomly showing other people? See, I have to, even though the Zoom was purchased a little while back, I haven't really had the ability to really test it on my computer. So there's a lot about.
As far as I know, anyone who is speaking is going to pop up and be live streamed. Like that's just the nature of Zoom. So the only real fix is I guess you might be able to set it so everyone is automatically muted or even permanently muted. I think that's a setting you can do. That would be an option.
Hmm. All right, so let's get started. I think we've done enough troubleshooting. I think but the only thing, everything seems to be working fine, but we just have to go through with this and see how it works. All right. Okay, friends. So if I remember correctly, it has been almost half a year since the last Dhammapalooza. But if I remember correctly, we start out with some chanting usually. So let's do that. Where is the mug? Ah, here we go. So we will do the Maggaseka chanting book. For those of you who don't have it, we're going to do today. Well, I'm going to do the Noble Eightfold Path. So we're going to do page 61. Wait a second. Let's see. Let's try the old share the old screen thing, huh? Why don't we do that? Okay. Okay. So I guess everybody can see the screen. All right, so let's get started. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Ayankosa majjima patipada tathagatena abhisambuddha chakku karani jnana karani upasamaya abhinyaya sambuddhaya nibbannaya samvattati ayang eva aryo attangiko maggo samadhyati dukkhe jnanam dukkha samudaye jnanam dukkha nirodhe jnanam dukkha nirodha gaminiya patipadaya padaya jnanam samma sankappo nekkamma sankappo avyapada sankappo avihingsa sankappo samma vacha musavada veramani pisunaya vachaya veramani parusaya vachaya veramani sampappalapa veramani sammakammanto panatipata veramani adinnadana veramani kamesu miccachara veramani samma ajivo micca ajivang pahaya samma ajivena jivakang kapeti samma vayamo samvarapadanang anupannanang papakanang akusalanang dhammanang anupadaya chandang janeti vayamati viryang arabbati chittang pagganhati padahati pahanap
Padanang Upannanang Papakanang Akusalanang Dhammanang Pahanaya Chandang Janeti Vayamati Viryang Arabbati Chittang Pagganhati Padahati Bhavanapadanang Anupannanang Kusalanang Dhammanang Uppadaya Chandang Janeti Vayamati Viryang Arabbati Chittang Pagganhati Padahati Anurakanapadanang Uppannanang Kusulanang Dhammanang Titiya Samosaya Bhiyo Bhavaya Vepulaya Bhavanaya Paripurya Chandang Janeti Vayamati Viryang Arabbati Chittang Pagganhati Padahati Sammasati kaye kayanu viharati atapi sampajano satima vineya loke abhijja domanasang vedanasu vedananu viharati atapi sampajano satima vineya loke abhijja domanasang Chitte chittanu viharati atapi sampajano satima vineya loke abhijja domanasang Dhame sudhammanu viharati atapi sampajano satima vineya loke abhijja domanasang Samma samadhi Vivecheva kamehi vivecha kusalehi dhammehi savitakang savicharang vivekajang piti sukkang pattamajjanang upasampadja viharati vitakka vicharanang vupasama ajjatang sampadasanang Chetaso ekodi bhavang avitakkang avicharang samadhijang piti sukkang Duttiya janang upasampajja viharati Pitiya cha viraga upekkako cha viharati Sato cha sampajano sukkang cha kayena patisang vedeti Yantang arya achikkanti upekkako satima sukka vihariti Tattiya janang upasampajja viharati Sukkassa chapahana dukkassa chapahana pubbeva somanassa domanassanang attangama dukkang sukkang upekka sati parisuddhing chattujjanang upasampajja viharati. All right. So let's do the English. Oh. Okay. I'm getting confused between my browser and the Zoom live stream. All right, so English. This is the middle way awakened to by the perfected one, which gives rise to vision and knowledge, which leads to peace, wisdom, enlightenment, and nibbana, the noble eightfold path. Right view of suffering, of its origin, of its cessation, of the way leading to the cessation of suffering. Right intention of renunciation, free from craving, of goodwill, free from aversion, of compassion, free from cruelty. Right speech, abstaining from false speech, abstaining from malicious speech, abstaining from harsh speech, abstaining from useless speech. Right action, abstaining from taking life, abstaining from stealing, abstaining from sensual misconduct. Right livelihood, giving up wrong livelihood, earning one's living by a right form of livelihood. Right effort, determination to prevent unarisen, evil, unwholesome states of mind from arising by making effort, arousing energy, applying mind, and striving. Determination to abandon evil, unwholesome states of mind that have already arisen by making effort, arousing energy, applying mind, and striving. Determination to develop wholesome mental states that have not yet arisen by making effort, arousing energy, applying mind, and striving. Determination to maintain and perfect wholesome mental states that already arisen and not to allow them to disappear, but to bring them to growth, to maturity, and to the full perfection of development by making effort, arousing energy, applying mind, and striving. Right mindfulness. One dwells contemplating the body in the body, ardent, clearly comprehending, mindful, having subdued longing and grief for the world. One dwells contemplating feelings and feelings, ardent, clearly comprehending, mindful, having subdued longing and grief for the world. One dwells contemplating mind and mind, ardent, clearly comprehending, mindful, having subdued longing and grief for the world. One dwells contemplating phenomena in phenomena, ardent, clearly comprehending, mindful, having subdued longing for grief in the world. Right? Concentration. One quite secluded from sense pleasures, secluded from unwholesome states of mind, one enters and dwells in the first jhana, which is accompanied by applied thought and sustained thought with rapture and happiness born of seclusion. With the subsiding of applied thought and sustained thought, one enters and dwells in the second jhana, which has internal confidence and unification of mind, is without applied thought and sustained thought, and is filled with rapture and bliss born of concentration. With the fading away of rapture, one dwells in equanimity, mindful and discerning, and one experiences in one's own person the bliss of which the noble ones say, happily lives one who is equanimous and mindful. Thus one enters and dwells in the third jhana. With the abandoning of pleasure and pain and the previous disappearance of joy and grief, one enters and dwells in the fourth jhana, which has neither pain nor pleasure, purity of mindfulness and equanimity. All right. So let's set up here. Now, there is one thing that I just thought that there's a problem. When we do both the Zoom and the YouTube, it kind of splits the community. It splits the chat. So we'll see how this is going to work. But welcome to Dhammapalooza, friends. So what I will do here is, let's see. Exit. Oh, okay, here we go. This is what I'm looking for. Sorry, Zoom. Okay, so welcome to Dhammapalooza, friends. First one in almost 6 months. And most people here probably have been to Dhammapaloozas. I don't notice anybody brand new. No? And so you know what the deal is. The Dhammapalooza is supposed to be a 2-hour festival of Dhamma, right? Where we have chanting like we just did. We have reading suttas, asking questions, doing some guided meditations, all kinds of different Dhamma-related activities. And you guys know that I like to open it up for you guys to kind of have a say in how this is going to go. Now, as always, I have a sutta that is, in the wings, waiting if I need it. If nobody has any questions or anything to any topics you'd like to discuss or anything like that, I have a sutta for us to read. But barring that, I'd like to open it up to you guys. If you have any questions you'd like me to answer, I can talk a little bit about my journeys of the last 5 months. If you have any Dhamma questions, meditation questions, we can do that. If you have any specific topics, we can do that, or we can read a sutta. So right now I'll leave it open and check the chat for the next minute or so and see where it goes. Let's see, so Hugh, let me see gallery view. Okay, so there's only a few people on the Zoom. Not too many people on the Zoom. Maybe more people on the YouTube. Hello, Robert. Good to see you. And Adriana. Oh, that's right. Where's the... Okay, I don't see anything in the chat, so maybe we can just read a sutta. I don't know how delayed the chat is on YouTube. Maybe the chat doesn't have a delay. All right. Oh, Bante Verapano comes in right at the last second. I was just about to I was just about to share the sutta, which is actually a good sutta. So maybe we'll do both. We should definitely have some good sutta time here. Stories from my rains retreat. Boy, it feels like it was a long time ago, but it's actually not that long ago. Well, it was definitely an interesting experience. I think most of you already kind of know the basics, right? Like I stayed at Aranyabodhi Hermitage, which is a Bhikkhuni hermitage, but I didn't stay on the property. I stayed in this this shared area called the Saddle, which is like up the mountain from the hermitage. And yeah, I just told my parents, like there were some clothes that I just washed yesterday, some cloth I washed yesterday that it was the first time that they were washed in an actual washer dryer in like 5 months. because where I stayed, right? I stayed in a tent and there was no water. So any water I used, I had to lug up, which I did in about a 3-gallon container with a backpack. I lugged up about an 8-story building's worth of mountain, and I showered once a week out of a 5-gallon bag. That was actually really convenient because you could heat it. You put it out in the sun when there was sun for a couple hours, right? And yeah, I washed out of a bucket. So that's basically what I did. Trying to think, nothing interesting. Like you know, I mean, I didn't have any like major animal encounters. I didn't have any, I'm trying to think of any interesting stories to tell. Lessons and teachings. I'm going blank. You know, it's one of those things where like, while I was there, I was able to really process the first half of my Vasa, but once the end of the Vasa came, it got so kind of busy, and it was kind of a whirlwind for me. Like from the you know, as soon as I left the Vasa, I went to another, you know, place. I went from the Aranya Bodhi to Karuna Buddhist Vihara. Then I did 3 Katinas, and then that was over in 2 weeks. That was done. And then I, you know, went to Abhayagiri after that, and I spent a week at Abhayagiri. Okay, I know. I want to talk about Abhayagiri. Abhayagiri was amazing. I loved Abhayagiri. Just to see, there were so many things about Abhayagiri I liked. The first one of the major ones was how organized they were. It was so good. Like I've between like me trying to organize things at Bhavana, which was always a losing battle, and so many other places that I experienced, like it's just organized. It's just like chaos. But yeah, Reed, you were all on camera for us. But you know, it was wonderfully organized. The other thing was, it was amazing. It was amazing to be around a bunch of monks, right? It was amazing to be around a community of, well, it's really about 20 people, but like 13 bhikkhus, right? Most of them around my age, maybe a little bit older, around my age, and a little bit younger. It was a very different experience. And I was not expected to be as welcomed as I was. Because I was told by a few people, like, you know, that they might want to, like, they might kind of put you out on a, you know, kind of keep you at arm's length a little bit, because you're not really Thai forest trained, and, you know, they don't know your Vinaya and such and such and such. And it actually was, it was the opposite. They were like, you know, most of them were very welcoming right off the bat. And also, like, the first day I was there, was the last day that Ajahn Amaro was there. So I got to experience an evening tea, which is where you have tea and, you know, you ask questions of the Ajahns. I got to experience an evening tea with both Ajahn Pasano, Langpor Pasano now. Langpor is like venerable grandfather, and which he is. He actually, Langpor Pasano, like, reminds me a lot of my dad, which was interesting. He's definitely a very fatherly figure. And Ajahn Amaro, and I got to talk to both of them. I got to ask both of them my question. Like, you know, every time I meet a senior monastic, I ask them, you know, what advice do you have for a junior monastic? Right. And so I was able to get some good advice from them. And Langpor Pasano, I guess, I don't know. I think maybe the Bhikkhunis all put in like a good word for me, I guess. Maybe they've said good things, or maybe Langpor Pasano has some kind of psychic powers that he can see, you know, he knows me or something. I don't know. But he was very kind to me, very, like, you know, smiling at me a lot and things like that. And it went very well. It was nice to be around somebody who really has a long track record of training good monastics, which is, you know, somebody that I really like to be around, because that's what I want to be. I want to be somebody who eventually has a very long track record of ordaining and training good bhikkhus and bhikkhunis, right? So that's was a wonderful experience. Now, one thing that it was like at Abhayagiri is they do a lot of work. I met this basically the me of Abhayagiri, which is Tan Sampano, a guy a couple years younger than me, and he's like the kind of work boss outdoor guy, and so we were doing like burning wood piles and like clearing things and stuff like that. So we had a lot of fun. I had a lot of outdoor fun work for the week that I was there. And so it was interesting because, again, I built myself up that I was not going to kind of be accepted. And it turned out that I was accepted. And it turned out that actually a few people actually knew me. One of the things that I laughed at was that when the guest monk, which was Tankantiko, he said, when he says the emails like, "You're welcome to come." This is, but while you're there, don't do any live streaming, don't do any recording, I'm like, oh man, they know me. It's not good. I was like, oh no. They, I was like, oh boy, what do they know about me? But and of course I didn't while I was there. I didn't even write in my journal, which was like the post Vasa was such a whirlwind for me that I didn't really write in my journal. I didn't really feel like I was like able to process. And that's what I need to, like, I'm still not even like, I'm barely home. Right. I mean, I've been, I've basically unpacked a couple days ago. So there's still a lot of processing that I need to do, especially with the last like month and a half, 2 months of my trip. I still have a lot of processing to do in my mind regarding this. But one of the things that, I was speaking to a young guy who, interestingly enough, this is the weirdest thing, right? This young guy is the brother of somebody I know very well from my empty cloud, from like, doing retreats at Buddhist Insights, like this young guy, Drager, who some of you might know. He's a really interesting guy. I like him a lot. And I meet his brother randomly at Abhayagiri, the guy who lives in California. And, he was asking me, he's like, because he's been around Abhayagiri. He's 26, and Lungpor Pasano held him when he was a baby, right? So he's been around Abhayagiri his whole life. And he asked me, like, how was my stay at the end? And I said, well, I thought I was going to be kind of, put, at arm's length and all these things. And he said, and he told me, he says, well, Bhante, he says, I'd never heard, the whole time you were here, I never heard any of the monastics say anything negative about you at all. It was all very positive. And he said that he felt that the reason why they were so welcoming and open to me and allowing me to be with them in places where they would not normally have a visiting monk be, was that they felt that my Vinaya was actually very good, which I felt very happy about. Like that for monks at Abhayagiri to like say, you're welcome to come back, right? The abbot, when I paid respects to the abbot, he says, come back again, right? So like when monks at a place like Abhayagiri, like, basically kind of give you that kind of, mutual respect of like, you're a good monk. I felt very, very happy about that. It was a good thing. It's a very good thing. That I'm glad that I made a good impression, and I'm glad that I'm going to be able to go back again, which I will. I'm definitely going back again. There's no doubt about that. But I think that's everything about Abhayagiri. Karuna Buddhist Vihara was also interesting. Karuna Buddhist Vihara is a small two bhikkhuni place. This Aya Santusika and my Dhamma sister Aya Chitananda, and it was fun being with them for 2 weeks, especially because I got to spend time at the 3 major bhikkhuni monasteries in California and see how they do things differently. Right? They like Dhammadharini, like Ayatotaloka is very in many ways very traditional, very like kind of strict by the book, like we're going to do everything ritually and such and such and such. And then I go to Karuna Buddhist Vihara and it's like the opposite. They're like, yeah, we're like, you know, like we're gonna just mutually pay respects to each other. You know, we're just gonna you know, chill and you know, again, not meaning that they don't follow Vinaya or anything like that, but it's just very different how it was like it was much more laid back, and I felt like it was like a good like contrast after being a Dhammadharini. Oh, okay, here, yeah. And I got to spend a night and a day at Aloka Vihara. So I got to see, you know, spend a lot of time with bhikkhunis, and it was funny at Karuna Buddhist Vihara. I actually got to sit down for almost, I mean, like 3.5 months. I had basically been around women. I had almost zero conversation with men. Like they're like the few like Sri Lankan men who came, you know, to give dana or something like that. I had a few words with them, but I had basically no contact with men at all for like 3 months. I lived with bhikkhunis, not with, but you know what I mean. But like that was like my main contact for all of those months. And then to go to Abhayagiri, it was total bro. It was like this awesome like bro energy, and it was really cool. It was like just cool to have that kind of contrast of being around women for so many months and then just being with the bros. I really enjoyed that. But I think I mentioned it a little bit, you know, in the videos I made at the halfway point, but the thing that I most needed, there's 2 things were really the biggest takeaways for me from my time in California and Colorado. The first one was I already knew, right? I need Kalyanamitas. I needed to develop relationships, develop contacts with monastics who I can confide in, and I can, you know, practice with, and all this kind of stuff in the holy life. And I believe I, you know, set the groundwork for at least a couple of those. You know, we'll have to see how life goes, but that was important, right? Like to be around all these other monastics to kind of develop this, because at Bhavana in the beginning we had, you know, it was me and a couple of young guys, and then they left, and then it was just me and a bunch of old people. A bunch of old monastics, right? And you know, so, and then I left Bhavana. So it's been very, you know, most of my monastic career, my monastic life, I've not had real kind of peers, like peer Kalyanamitas, right? And so it was really nice to develop that, both in the bhikkhunis and the bhikkhus, to kind of be around those peers, right? And the other thing was that I had, you know, most of you have heard me, you know, some of you don't kind of know the details, which is good. But most of you know, like, especially the last couple years at Bhavana, like I've never felt like I thrived at Bhavana. I only survived, right? I never felt very kind of supported. No real Kalyanamitas. And lots of work, very busy, very lots of responsibility. So it was a lot. And, you know, by the last couple of years of Bhavana, I was not in a good place mentally, like, depression and lack of meaning and all kinds of stuff. And the last couple of years of COVID has actually been an uprise for me. Like for a lot of, this is one of the things, like being out of Bhavana and being on my own, and kind of has allowed me to start and not having so much responsibility, being a nomad monk. Oh man, it's such a big thing. I can almost kind of sort of understand Bhante Rahula in a way, although I only did it for a couple of years. Bhante Rahula was vice abbot at Bhavana for 23 years before he had got to escape and go and be a nomad monk for like 5 or 6 years. For me, it was, only a couple of years. So Bhante Rahula had it much worse in that regard. Kind of being free to kind of just work on myself. And that's like the last couple of years, that's really what I've been doing, right? I've been trying to bring myself kind of back to how I was a couple of like before I moved to the monastery to become a monk, right? The zeal for the practice I had, the zeal for awakening, the joy of the practice, the happiness of the practice, that all I had before I moved to the monastery to become a monk, that kind of were just slowly sapped out of me over years, right? So it was like, how do I get this back, right? And so that's been my focus the last couple of years, is how do I get this back? How do I find meaning again, find zeal for the practice, find all these things again? And it's been like a slow process. Like if you don't know, I mean, some of you have heard me talk about this, but like those huge gigantic freighters that are in the ocean, like it takes them like 100 miles to turn around. Like it's this like big, slow, wide arc of a thing to turn around. And I feel like the last couple of years, that's what I've been doing. Like I've been trying to set the groundwork, right? Using my insight and understanding of dependent origination, of this arises, that arises, right? Understanding, okay, I want to get to that point. How do I get to that point? Well, I have to set the groundwork. I have to do the small things day to day to set the groundwork for that, to get to that point. And so I've been slowly moving. And it was at Raven Mist, on Camp Raven Mist, up in that mountain, in that tent, in that experience where I think I finally turned the corner, right? I think I finally am now heading in the right direction, right? My joy and my zeal and my happiness and my goals, to build Magaseka and all these things, all of that has been turned around. And now I've like, it's all better. I'm not 100% there. I'm not there just yet, but I'm heading in the right direction. And that's exactly what I needed. Like I needed to have these experiences. I needed to make these connections and to be with these monastics and to see how various monastics hold the robes and to live, how they live their monastic life and all these things. I needed to see these things. I needed to have these experiences. Like this is exactly what I needed, right? And my intuition was to do this. Like I follow my intuition. My intuition was I needed this. I needed the seclusion, but I also needed the Kalyanamitta, right? And that was my Vasa. My Vasa was not completely secluded by myself. Well, I mean, yes, I was by myself up in the mountain, but I also had the Dhammadharini community, right? The bhikkhunis and the samaneris and the Anagarikas who were in that hermitage with me, that I saw every day, like, for meals and worked with here and there. And we did Vinaya classes together and various, online teachings from various bhikkhus together and all kinds of stuff like that, So I had that dichotomy of seclusion and Kalyanamitas. And that's what I need. Like that's still what I need. I need those two things. Still, right? And this is my journey is still not over yet. It's not like I'm done. Like I'm gonna go to Temple Forest this year, right? Spend a week at Temple Forest. I'm still supposed to go to Australia one of these days when it doesn't turn into this like horrible totalitarian lockdown state that it has become, right? When actually things open up, I'm supposed to go to Australia and see all the different monasteries and visit Bodhinyana and Bante Sujato and stuff down there. I'm like, my journeys is not done yet. So I'm still Bante Rahula invited me to spend a month at Lion of Wisdom this year. So I'm probably going to do that as well. Right. So my journey of developing Kalyanamitas and exploring and being and doing this nomadic life thing is still there. Right. It's still there. It's not over yet. And, continuing on with it. And hopefully in the next couple of years, I go back to Abhayagiri again, right? Go back to Dhammadharini again, go back to all these different places. And I also never got to go to Wat Metta. So I have to go see Ajahn Thanissaro as well, Ajahn Jeff. So there's many places, many journeys still left to go before I settle down, right? Settle down, hopefully in Colorado. Colorado went very well. Made some friends in Colorado, have places to stay in Colorado now. Some possible, maybe lay organizations to be built in Colorado to set the groundwork for myself and other monastics to come to Colorado. Hopefully, we'll see. It's still early. I mean, I was only there, I was only with people for a couple of days, but it's looking good. It's looking good. We'll see. I'm not seeing any chat, so hopefully I'm still on. Maybe people are just observing and watching. All right, just checking. Make sure that I'm on. Hello, Maxwell. Welcome. Anybody have any questions now? I mean, yeah, so next Dhammapalooza, we're definitely just going to do Zoom, YouTube only. I think that this is the better way. Have all the community on the YouTube chat together, things like that. Unless we were to do something like Dhammapalooza and I wanted to get a couple of different monastics together or something like that, then maybe I would use the Zoom. But I think just for regular Dhammapalooza, I think that YouTube by itself is just best. Bante Verapanya says, do you have any interest to leave America for Asia? No, not really. I don't have any interest to live in Asia. I mean, to visit, yes. Maybe to spend, like, if I got to spend like a 6-month silent retreat or something like that, like, to be able to like, spend time as a hermit or something like that for a couple months, I would definitely probably look into something like that. But to kind of live there, no, not really. Like I had this really kind of I have this part of me that wants to that has the goal of building up the Dhamma in the West. And so, I don't ever I mean, who knows what can happen in life, but my path and the desire to build my monastery and my organization and stuff like that, it's all in the West. Now, of course, I'll definitely travel. Like, I have been invited to go to Indonesia, Sri Lanka, stuff like that. And I'm definitely going to go for sure. And I definitely wouldn't mind staying, a certain amount of time, but to live there, no. There's plenty of Buddhism and there's plenty of monks in Asia, right? There's not that many, monks in America who are really able to share Dhamma with Westerners to a high degree. That's a very, very rare thing. It just is. I mean, like the Bhante G's, Bhante Piyananda. Yeah, I mean, like, sure, there's lots and lots of like Asian monastics in America, and many of them are kind of sharing Dhamma with Westerners, but most of them are pretty, they're just not born in the culture. They just don't know how to do it as well as somebody who's part of the culture or somebody who really knows the culture, like a Bhante G. Bhante G is, I owe a lot to him because he was one of those Asian monastics that decided that they wanted to come to America to share the Dhamma, right? And to have a place like Bhavana. Like Bhavana was so amazing to have a place like Bhavana for me as a visitor, and to ordain and all these kind of things, So my goal, what I wanted, other than my own awakening, which is the Buddha tells us to practice both for yourself and others, right? So for myself, the goal is awakening. For others is to build up many, many good monastics and organizations, so that there's more places, more monastics, more Dhamma, more monasteries in this country that are going to be very good for teaching Westerners. Well, I shouldn't say just Westerners. This is something that I need to do. Not Buddhist converts, right? Because most people, when you hear the term Westerners, you think European, right? But in America, because it's a diverse place, there's very diverse, lots and lots of different people who are Buddhist converts or thinking about Buddhism. So Buddhist converts is what Buddhist converts in America. That's what I should say. So let me check the chat here. Who is Maxwell's parents? Adriana is saying this actually is lodging an old memory. So I'm sure that I actually know this, but I definitely forgot it. Looking through the chat. Adriana says she's ready for her kuti in Colorado. Oh, that's a long way away. I'm not going to have any kutis in Colorado anytime soon. Ah, yeah, John and Audrey's. Okay, yeah, I thought so. I thought so. So one other thing, I am going to be writing I am going to write an article. I mean, it might be a month or two before it comes out because again, like I said, I have to process it and then write it. So it's gonna, but I am gonna write an article about my time in California and Colorado. So that is definitely coming out. Oh no, yurt. I love those yurts. Adriana, you've seen a picture of the yurt. I don't think anybody else has seen, but those Colorado yurt company yurts that all the bikini, and even Abayagiri has one of those yurts. Those yurts are like amazing. Like you don't even have to build a kuti. Like you can even put like heating in those yurts. I mean, temporarily. I mean, obviously the kuti would have better insulating, but just having a couple of those yurts on a property and doing being there like maybe when it's not freezing cold, that's all you need of those yurts. Those yurts are posh. Adriana has seen those yurts before. I showed pictures of my travels as I went. Well, Christine, that's actually how it goes. Like even at like a Bayagiri, at the like a Bhavana society, it's usually lay people that will donate a kuti. Like for instance, at Bhavana society, there's Sivali kuti, and Sivali kuti was built by well, money wise, and also friends built it with him. But Sivali got a gentleman named Patrick Hamilton, who's a long-term friend of Bhavana Society in Bante G, right? So he had that built. He was going to retire in it. He hasn't retired just yet. But so he had that built at Bhavana and Sivali Kuti, right? And so like that's his kuti that when he comes, he stays in it, right? There's another kuti, Wasu Kuti, that was built in honor of this young child who died. You can, if you go to Wasu Kuti, you see like a picture of the kid. He was maybe like 10 or 11 years old. And so like kutis at monasteries are built or at least financed and donated by laity. Hello, Briar Rose. Good to see you. A kuti is a little cabin. The little cabins that monastics and lay people stay at monasteries. A yurt is like a little cabin, but it's made of cloth. At least the outside is made of cloth. There's some wood, for the structure, but yeah, Tanisabo's place. Yeah. They have yurts already. That's good. Wow, they're really interesting. Uh-oh. Did I disconnect myself from YouTube? I kind of closed the tab. So hopefully that doesn't mean I disconnected myself from YouTube. All right. Well, I mean, they're kind of like teepees, but yurt is like from the Mongolian steppes, like the Mongols in the who are the earlier ones? You know, like if you ever like watch like the Mongolian steppe people, like they're nomadic. I mean, they just, you know, it's this awesome thing that they could just they put up in a day. So that's where the term yurt comes from. It's from the Asian steppe people. I got to use my anthropology. My anthropology degree comes in handy every once in a while, and my love of history. All right. What? All right. Let's read a sutta. I think we should read a sutta. We're at an hour in. Maybe we can read a sutta, do some meditation, and call it a night. So let me share my screen here. Okay. So let's do Majjhima Nikaya, number 61. Sorry, just moving around some things here. Advice to Rahula. Ambalatika. So I have heard at one time the Buddha was staying near Rajagaha in the bamboo grove, the squirrel's feeding ground. Now at that time, Venerable Rahula was staying at Ambalatika. Then in the late afternoon, the Buddha came out of retreat and went to Ambalatika to see Venerable Rahula. Rahula saw the Buddha coming off in the distance. He spread out a seat and placed water for washing the feet. The Buddha sat on the seat spread out and washed his feet. Rahula bowed to the Buddha and sat down to one side. Then the Buddha, leaving a little water in the pot, addressed Rahula. Rahula, do you see this little bit of water left in the pot? Yes, sir. That's how little of the ascetic's nature is left in those who are not ashamed to tell a deliberate lie. Ooh. One who tells a lie. There's not that much of an ascetic nature in there. Then the Buddha tossing away what little water was left in the pot, said to Rahula, do you see this little bit of water that was tossed away? Yes, sir. That's how the ascetic's nature is tossed away in those who are not ashamed to tell a deliberate lie. Then the Buddha, turning the pot upside down, said to Rahula, do you see how this pot is turned upside down? Yes, sir. That's how the ascetic's nature is turned upside down in those who are not ashamed to tell a deliberate lie. Then the Buddha, turning the pot right side up, said to Rahula, do you see how this pot is vacant and hollow? Yes, sir. That is how vacant and hollow the ascetic's nature is to those who are not ashamed to tell a deliberate lie. Boy, Buddha used all of the states of that pot. A little bit, water tossed out, empty, upside down, right side up. That was interesting, right? Not one state of the pot has gone to waste for this simile. That is how vacant and hollow the ascetic's nature is to those who are not ashamed to tell a deliberate lie. Suppose there was a royal bull elephant, excuse me, with tusks like chariot poles, able to draw a heavy load, pedigree and battle hardened. In battle, it uses its forefeet and hind feet, its forequarters and hindquarters, its head, ears, tusks, and tails, but it still protects its trunk. So its rider thinks this royal bull elephant will protect its trunk. It has not yet given its life. But when the royal bull elephant in battle uses its forefeet and hind feet, its forequarters and hindquarters, its head, ears, tusks, and tail, and its trunk, its rider thinks this royal bull elephant in battle uses its forefeet and hind feet, forequarters and hindquarters, head, ears, tusks, and tail, and its trunk. It has given its life. Now there is nothing that royal bull elephant would not do. So obviously here, it's not saying like it literally just gave its life there. What it's saying, what the simile here is that this elephant is all in, not holding anything back, right? That's what this is saying, right? Before it's like it uses this, but I'm going to protect my trunk. I'm not going to use my trunk. Then the next part of the simile is it uses its trunk too. It's all in. That's what it means by it has given its life. There's nothing that the bull elephant would not do. In the same way, when someone is not ashamed to tell a deliberate lie, there is no bad deed that they would not do, I say. So you should train like this. I will not tell a lie, even for a joke. What do you think, Rahula? What is the purpose of a mirror? And now most of you have heard me use this simile a bazillion times because it's so important. This is a very important simile. And it's kind of a little bit abrupt, but not really. But think about, so the Buddha ends here, right? These various similes. This is how dangerous it is to tell a deliberate lie, right? And we see in other places in the suttas where the Buddha says the same exact thing. There is one thing which, if done, a person could do anything else. What is that one thing? Telling a deliberate lie. All right, so let's go to the mirror. What do you think, Rahula? What is the purpose of a mirror? It is for checking your reflection, sir. In the same way, deeds of body, speech, and mind should be done only after repeated checking. When you want to act with the body, you should check on that same deed. Does this act with the body that I want to do lead to hurting myself, hurting others, or hurting both? Is it unskillful with suffering as its outcome and result? If while checking it in this way, you know, this act with body that I want to do leads to hurting myself, hurting others, or hurting both. It is unskillful with suffering as its outcome and result. To the best of your ability, Rahula, you should not do such a deed. That's an interesting point, right? To the best of your ability, you should not do such a deed. Interesting, isn't it? Buddha is taking into consideration here that there will be actions that you can't stop yourself from doing. But to the best of your ability, you should not do them. Avoid them as much as possible. All right. But if when checking in this way, you know, this act with the body that I want to do doesn't lead to hurting myself, hurting others, or hurting both. It's skillful with happiness as its outcome and result. Then, Rahula, you should do such a deed. With you, while you are acting with body, you should check on the same act. So we've gone from before acting, you should check. Now we've gone to while you're acting, you should check. Right? Because we all know the road to hell is paved with good intentions. We like to act, we act with good intentions, but then we find out that what I'm doing is not good. It's harming. So we should stop. So while you're acting with the body, you should check on the same act. Does this act with the body that I am doing lead to hurting myself, hurting others, or hurting both? Is it unskillful with suffering as its outcome and result? If while checking in this way, you know this act with the body that I am doing leads to hurting myself, others, and both, it is unskillful with suffering as its outcome. Then, Rahula, you should cease and desist from such an act. But if while checking in this way, you know this act that I am doing doesn't lead to hurting myself, others, or both, it is skillful with happiness as its outcome and result, then you should continue to do such a deed. And then after, right? So before, during, after. Reflect on your actions before, during, after. Make that a habit. Make it a vehicle, as the Buddha says, right? Make much of it. Practice it a lot before, during, and after. Is this skillful or unskillful? Beneficial or harmful? Does it lead to suffering or happiness? So dukkha or sukha, right? After you have acted with the body, you should check on that same act. Does this act with the body that I have done lead to hurting myself, hurting others, or hurting both? Is it unskillful with suffering as a result? While checking in this way, you know, this act that I have done with body leads to hurting myself, others, and both. It's unskillful with suffering as an outcome. Then you should confess, reveal, and clarify such a deed to the teacher or a sensible spiritual companion. Right? So this is interesting, right? It's not even this. You didn't intentionally do this, but you should still do something about it. You should still make amends. You should still confess, ask for forgiveness, try to make it better, etc. Right? That's taking what's that book called? Extreme ownership. That's taking full responsibility for your actions, regardless of your intention. That's very important. That shows metta. That shows compassion, right? Not just, man, well, I didn't mean it. Doesn't matter. You didn't mean it. You still cause suffering. So you want to try to minimize that in the future and try to fix any problems that you've caused in the present. And having revealed it, you should restrain yourself in the future. Oh, there you go. But if while checking in this way, you know this act doesn't lead to hurting myself, others, or both, it's skillful with happiness as its outcome, then Rahula, you should live in rapture and joy. Because of this, training day and night in skillful qualities. When you want to act with speech, so body and speech, same thing. Does the speech that I want to do leading to my hurting myself, others, etc.? Lots of ellipsing. And mind. Also interesting. Right? An impulse comes to your mind. A thought comes to your mind. If I engage with this impulse or this thought, if I build this impulse or this thought up, if I just automatically accept it as mine and act on it, will this lead to my suffering and the suffering of others? Or my benefit and the benefit of others? Body, speech, and mind. And so it goes, if you have seen that this act of mind leads to hurting myself or hurting others or both, then you should be horrified, repelled, and disgusted by that deed. And being repelled, you should restrain yourself in the future. This is an act of mind. This is not an act of body or speech. This is knowing what is coming up in your mind. And because speech and bodily action stem from the mind. So Rahula, you should train yourself like this. I will purify my physical, verbal, and mental actions after repeatedly checking. That is what the Buddha said. Satisfied, the Venerable Rahula was happy with what the Buddha said. Any comments or questions on that sutta? This is one of those suttas, along with like Majjhima Nikaya number 19, Two Kinds of Thought. There are a handful of suttas, at least, where the Buddha gives you a direct technique with working with the mind, right? He's literally giving you a technique. He's not just saying do it. He's saying this is how you do it, right? You can literally read this sutta and literally start right then and there, that second, putting it into practice, right? These suttas are invaluable. Absolutely invaluable, these suttas. You can literally put them into practice right now. Yes, Adriana, as Christine said, was it Christine? Who said it? Check yourself before you wreck yourself. I don't know if that's current with the lingo of the youngsters these days, but it is still worthy of being used because it is still has relevance. Check yourself before you wreck yourself and others. All right. Now it's time to do meditation. We'll do a half hour and then we'll have the last couple of minutes for closing out stuff. Let me get some liquid in me so that I don't cough and kill people's ears. Yes, Buddha would check himself before he wrecked himself. Okay, friends, let's do some meditation. Yes, it's time for Douse to head out. We made Douse stay up till almost 4 o'clock in the morning because we did the meditation later. All right, Douse, thank you very much. Thanks for typing in and contributing. Much appreciated. And have a good night, my friend. Whatever is left of it, right? For Douse, the sun will be coming up in an hour or two, somewhere's around there. Yeah. All right. Okay. Let's see here. Let us set. No, go away. Yes, agree and continue. Okay. I'm trying to I don't have my bell handy, so I'm going to use. I don't even, well, I think the view count, I'm not even counting because doing the Zoom and the YouTube, it's all kinds of screwy and it's all kinds of split. I'm not going to bother with it. So, but I'm glad we tested it. So now we know. All right, there we go. Now we have a bell. All right, my friends. Close your eyes. Set yourself up in whatever comfortable position works for you. We'll spend a little time scanning through the body before moving to mindfulness of breathing. Bring your awareness to the tips of your toes. By bring awareness, this means to connect with whatever sensations and feeling that you can observe in that part of the body. Sometimes it may help to wiggle the toes. We scan through the body for two reasons. The first is to allow ourselves to start slowly moving from the external to the internal before moving on to the more refined breath. And the second is to observe and set up our body in a comfortable and stable position that will allow us to sit for longer periods of time. As you scan through the body, as we go through each part of the body, check two things. First, check how that part of the body affects the balance of your posture. And second, check to see if there's any small pains or discomforts, because small pains and discomforts now lead to large pains and discomforts later on. It's better to spend time fiddling and adjusting and getting your posture just right in the beginning than having to fiddle and adjust your posture many times during the practice. So there's no rush in the beginning. It's better to take time. Bring your awareness up through your ankles to your calves. What is the feeling of the calves resting against the floor or against the chair? If you have trouble connecting with any sensation as we move through the bodies, you can always prompt yourself by asking, What do I see? What do I feel? And oftentimes, this will prompt your mind to look for some kind of sensation in that part of the body that will then move to your field of awareness. Bring your awareness up to your knees, through to your thighs. What's the feeling of the thighs pressing against the cushion, the chair? Bring your awareness up through to your hips and pelvis. If you're sitting on a cushion, it's good to make sure that your sits bones, your buttocks is evenly distributed on the cushion. The lower body acts as a foundation for the upper body. If the lower body is stable, balanced, and comfortable, then this provides a good foundation for the upper body to be the same. When you're done setting up your lower body in a stable and comfortable position, move up through to the abdomen and the chest. Start to check and see that your upper body is resting comfortably, balanced on the lower body, that the spine is in its natural position, not slouching and leaning here and there. Move your awareness up to your shoulders. Make sure that they're hanging loosely, not scrunched up and tight. Bring your awareness down through your elbows and your hands. Check that they are in a comfortable position that helps the balance of your posture, does not harm it. Your hand position can make the upper body lean and slouch. So be mindful of this. And finally, bring your awareness up to your head. Just as the upper body rests on the foundation of the lower, so too does the head rest on the spinal foundation of the upper body. If the posture is just right, then the upper body and the head rest comfortably with no strain of trying to keep things up straight. Try to make sure that the head, the chin is parallel to the ground, but the head is not leaning and slouching, just like the upper body. And when you're done with the body, let the body go and take 3 deep, silent breaths. And then let the breath go. From here on in, we do not wish to manipulate or control the breath in any way. We simply want to let the body do its job. This body has been breathing from the moment you were born and will continue to do so until the second you die. It doesn't need you to do its job. Your job is simply to observe and investigate the breath, to stay with the breath. Watch as this body breathes in, watch as this body breathes out. Friends, we come to our meditation with many responsibilities, worries, and burdens. Families and friends, work and school. Many things that will seek to come to our mind as we practice our meditation. For the time of this meditation, we practice letting go, laying down all our burdens. Just as the mighty Atlas holds the world upon his shoulders, so too do we each hold our world on our shoulders, a heavy burden. Lay down your world, put down your burdens. If you really want to, you can pick them all back up again after this meditation. But for now, lay your burdens down and follow the breath. Watch as this body breathes in. Watch as this body breathes out. While following the breath, you will become distracted. Your mind will become bored and will decide to go somewhere else, anywhere else. Across the country, the world, the universe, to the past or the future, or some external distraction will arise. And you'll be taken away from your breath. Whenever you've been taken away from the breath and you start to become aware that you're not on the breath anymore, first take a second, fully acknowledge that you've been distracted from the breath. Marshal your mindfulness. Fully realize you're not on the breath anymore. Then, if the distraction is still there, practice letting go of the distraction, letting go of your mental travels, and return to the breath. By practice letting go, this means that we want to try not to give our thoughts any energy. We're not trying to push our thoughts and distractions away with agitation or to get attached to them and build them up and fantasize, get lost in their world. We simply want to let it go, give it no energy, and return to the breath. Whenever distracted, acknowledge, let go, and return over and over. As you follow your breath and continue to come back from distractions, every once in a while, check in with the state of your mind. Is your mind becoming more peaceful and tranquil, more calm, or not? As your mind does become more tranquil and calm, you may begin to notice more subtle, deeper characteristics of the breath. You may begin to start to notice impermanence in the breath. Sometimes the breath is short and shallow. Sometimes long and deep. Start to investigate, pay attention to how the breath is changing as it moves in and out of your body. All right, friends. Slowly come out of the meditation by opening your eyes, becoming aware of the room around you, moving from the internal to the external. And we come to the end of Dhammapalooza. A few things. So obviously, those of you who didn't know before, now we have a Zoom, and there's plans for the Zoom. One of the plans is we're going to be doing monthly retreats. So tentatively, I have the first Magga, the very first Magga organization retreat. I mean, the organization technically doesn't exist like as a real world organization yet, but the very first Magga online Zoom retreat. And this is going to be January 21st to the 23rd. So it's going to be Friday night to Sunday afternoon, which is like a typical weekend retreat. And we're going to have the first Magga Zoom retreat has to be on the topic of metta, of course. It has to be about metta. And then after that, mindfulness of death. But metta first. So we have this Zoom is going to, again, I don't think we're going to use the Zoom for Dhammapalooza in the future, unless I want to have other monastics on with me, then maybe that'll work. But Dhammapalooza, I think, is going to remain YouTube only. But this Zoom, we're going to have retreats on this Zoom. We're going to, we're going to have one-off events. Like one event that I want to do is like a children's meditation, like hour or two, just like, no, just it's kids, so just an hour, maybe even just a half hour, right? So like kind of just like advertise it and get a bunch of people that, a bunch of kids together on the Zoom and, do some meditation with them, stuff like that. And if you have any ideas for things for us to do, as a community, as an organization with this Zoom, it's here, right? I mean, it's at least paid off for the year. So we have it at least for a year, no problems. We can use it as much as, whenever we want to use it, we can use it. So if you have any ideas, feel free to pass them along. But, keep an eye out on the Discord or on maggaseka.org, my website, which is also going to have some changes coming to it. There's changes afoot, right? As I steamroll, my ship is turning now. It's going straight, moving forward. And part of that moving forward is building up Maggaseka, building up this organization. And we are going full steam ahead, right? Okay, friends. So let us do our closing, and we can share our screen for that. Since we are on Zoom, let's share the screen. So have the Pali and the English, right? So dukkha patta chani dukkha, bhaya patta chani bhaya, sokha patta chani sokha, hontu sabbe pipaniyo, ettavata cha mehi sampadang punya sampadang, sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Akasata Chabumata Deva Naga Mahidika Punyantang Anumoditva Charang Rakantu Sasanang. May the suffering ones be suffering free, and the fear-struck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, and may all beings find relief. May all beings share this merit that we've thus acquired for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness. May beings inhabiting space and earth, devas, nagas, and yakas of mighty power, share this merit of ours. May they long protect the Buddha's dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Hello, Dennis. Welcome to the end. Hopefully you were here for longer. It didn't just join us. But okay, friends. Also, the other announcement I need to make is Morning Monastery Experience is back, 8 a.m. Eastern. I don't have a specific schedule for that yet because I don't know what my schedule is going to be. But for now, keep an eye out on the Discord and keep an eye out. You can subscribe on my YouTube and click the bell and all that. And when I go live, you'll get an announcement. But for now, most mornings, 8 a.m., we're going to do our half-hour Morning Monastery Experience. As usual, we are back in full force, moving full steam ahead. Okay, friends, until next time, Suki Hotu, may you be happy. Practice well and be well. Sean Burchell, that's a name I'm not familiar with. Maybe you're on the Discord with us. But anyway, nice to meet you, Sean, if I don't know who you are. All right. Good night.